Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Shattered Hole's mini series or mini break off of Shattered Hole we're calling Heart to Heart with this season's co-host Emicia Parker.
Hey, girl.
I mean, the joy of the Lord is just here when you're in the room. So
You too. I think you usher it in.
I'll take that.
Yeah, you do.
I'll take that. He does go with us wherever we go.
Yes.
So I should hope so.
He gonna need to go with us into this topic.
Yeah. So I was telling Emicia that, because we're going to go right now. I was telling Emicia, I was like, I'm a beginner in the podcast world, right? But I've jumped in like I've been doing it for years. And I look at the comments, I look at the engagement of like, well, the listens. Like, I really do pay attention to what you say. I really do pay attention to what you share, for what works for you. You know, that those clips that you share, all those things. And I was like, there's 2 episodes that ain't really getting no love. They were like, I hear everything else that you were saying some more, but let me tell you what I don't want to hear about. I don't want to hear you tell me about forgiveness, and I don't want to hear that you're going to tell me that it takes time to heal. I don't like that. That's what y'all told me. Y'all said, I don't like that. I don't want to hear it. So, moving on to the next topic.
So we decided we'd talk about forgiveness again. That's what we decided.
Because
we need it in these healing streets, y'all. I know we have the vision board mentality, and we want the house, we want the car, we want the husband, the children, the 3.5 children with the white picket fence. But you can have all those things with unforgiveness, and you will have misery.
I was like, who's this half baby doing? It's weird.
But all of that without forgiveness.
All that it's
You're gonna be arguing with that spouse. You're gonna be arguing with them kids. You're gonna be triggered at the grocery store.
Right.
You're gonna be fighting people in the Walmart with your shoes off.
Yeah.
I mean,
windmilling
with people on social media.
Yeah, it breeds misery. It breeds disappointment. It breeds self-hatred and loathing. It breeds a few other things, and a little later on, I'll tell you like statistics of some things that clinically it does to your mental state. It's not just this thing that you didn't do.
Right.
It is the rippling effect of not doing it and the investment of your unforgiveness that it makes throughout your life.
That's not the type of investment you want.
That's not the type of because here's the thing, it does have a return on its investment.
But at what cost?
What exactly? What's the return? It's not returning you life. It's not returning you joy. It's costing you those things. So
we're going to talk about forgiveness again.
Correct. Because I want you to have the benefits that forgiveness gives, because they are so flourishing, prosperous, joyful, and alleviating of pressure.
Yeah.
In so many different ways. I don't actually think that there's enough words to really express how much the benefit of forgiveness has to hold, because it is something that unravels itself and is more giving and more fruitful as time goes by.
No, that's so good. And there's a quote that says, you know, we have no scars to show for kindness. And I think that, like, it just speaks to the fact that it's hard to measure good things. Mm-hmm. It's easy to measure when everything falls apart. Yeah. It's easy to point at that. But it's hard to say, forgiving this person 10 years ago, you know, brought all of these things into my life. You would know what it took from your life if you didn't forgive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think about, there are a lot of pages that show kind of like the horrific issues and incidents that people have gone through in their life, and what was inspirational about watching the horror of what they went through was to watch what happened after.
Yeah, that's big.
When you see people who have, when you said scars, the first thing I thought about is someone being like set on fire, right? And sometimes you see these stories of men, women, children who have been physically burnt by someone who was angry and upset, and what they realized was the only way to quench the flame of hatred in their own heart was to forgive the one who set them on fire, literally.
No, literally. There was a movie about Medgar Evers. Whoopi Goldberg played his wife, and on the stand they asked her, you know, do you hate the man who killed your husband? And she said no, because the people who you hate either don't know or don't care. So who's actually carrying it then?
What's the statement? It's drinking the poison and hoping that the other person dies, and it doesn't work that way.
It really doesn't.
And sometimes forgiveness is not known because, like, your origin,
your family
didn't show you how to forgive. They might have shown you how to apologize, or say sorry if you're lucky, or to say sorry, but not forgive. Right.
And I think really quick, one of the things that's really crazy is that in a lot of family dynamics, offenses take place. People don't even address the issue that they have. Like, there's this idea that we just don't speak to the person. We let time go by. Then we just come back in like a revolving door, and then don't even address what happened. And that to me only amplifies the atmosphere of unforgiveness in a person's heart. Because now it makes it easier the next time something happens, whether with that person or someone else. This is now your default, right? Because like muscle memory, it's the same thing with your heart. So this is now your default in terms of conflict resolution is, I'm not even going to address it. And how can forgiveness happen when you don't even address something?
And I'm like, I love it. I love examples, right? And you can give some as well. But how you know that you're falling, or you have been brought up in this kind of incubator of not addressing the issue, is when you or your family members, or not even just like your family, but even with like your friends in your community, where the statement was, you know what you did. I don't need to tell you what you did because you know what you did.
When I tell you that, you want to talk about what really burns my toast? It's that. And you know why? It's because, and you know, I may be wrong in going this far, friend. Come
on, we're about healing.
It is so narcissistic to believe that anybody's life revolves around you and your feelings except yours. People wake up with a full list of things that they need to complete in their day. God does not come down on a cloud and give us an extra 2 hours or 3 hours to figure out why this person is upset or why that person is upset. Everyone wants to pretend to be an adult on the internet. We love pretending to be an adult on the internet. But when our feelings are hurt, now we're 5 years old in the kindergarten cot again. Like, no, I'm going to need you to be an adult, even when you're offended. And to actually address something, because you think that someone knows what they did. And it's like, that may be that person's way of communicating. Like, for me, I'm a very direct communicator. And I know that that's not something that women are typically expected to be. You know, we're expected to kind of be nice and keep the peace. And no, if something bothers me, I'm going to tell you it bothers me. Like, no problems with that. But there are people who get offended when you tell them that something bothers them, that bothers you. So it's like, what's the alternative? So then I don't say that it bothers me.
Correct.
Like,
you hear statements like, why would you say that to me? Even if that's how you felt, like, why would you say that to me? Because again, it's not about addressing what was said. It was how what you said made me feel. And it made me feel bad, or made me have a look at myself with this mirror, and I don't like what I saw. And since you're the one who brought this attention to this to me, then I'm going to take it out on you, because it's easier to deflect uncomfortable to you than for me to hold it and deal with it.
No, that's so good.
But I also want to, what I've learned through my time of study, of coaching, of navigating this thing called life.
Because you be navigating.
Yeah. One of the things that I had to kind of get rid of is having this expectation, because that you were adult in age, that you were adult in development in every area. Right?
No, that's so good. Because we all have areas.
Yeah, because we all have areas, right? I was like, so if we're saying, like, talking about like your origin, if your family never showed you or demonstrated how to take the process of one, speaking your experience, having the openness to hear the other side of it, to be able to deal with what you cannot change and what you can change, or the new behavior that you both have to learn together, and then come to the place where you go, okay, we've said it, this is what this is, and I forgive you. And then I'm going to start walking out the process where you understand that this takes time. Yes. And I understand that if I said I'm going to forgive you, then I can no longer treat you as if you were unforgiven.
Yes. And that's when reconciliation is concerned. It is. And I think you don't even give someone the opportunity to do that if you don't address what the issue is. And I think you're so right in terms of it being our origins and our roots that kind of set that default for us. But I also feel like it's the difference, again, between operating in love versus operating in ego.
Yeah.
Because if you have a relationship where both parties are operating in love, you should feel safe having these types of conversations. But when people are operating in ego, there's always offense. Yeah,
safety is not common, though.
Really?
No. Safety is not. Safety is had in places where there has been a vulnerable experience. And then vulnerability and transparency breeds that kind of trust and safety.
That makes a lot of sense.
Even with your kids, right? Your kids feel safest with you when they can, not necessarily you, they find out if they are their whatever with you, and the treatment that they received from that. If I show you the worst of me, I'm crying, I'm yelling, I'm screaming, I'm throwing tantrums, and your embrace is a hug, love, it's okay, soothing me.
Let's talk about it.
Right? Like use your words, or you're met with supplying what you believe that I need in order to investigate and find out if I'm hungry, if I'm dirty, you know what I mean? I was like, or if I just need to be embraced, or if I just need attention. That period of time then breeds trust with your child.
That's true.
And I was like, but the principle of that goes in every area.
Yeah.
Right? So safety is not common with people because most people are not willing to be transparent and vulnerable with one another because our guards are so high up.
I think, and that's a social and cultural thing.
Correct.
I also feel like in my life, maybe I've been fortunate in this way, but the sample size of my population, my friend group, is mostly artists because I went to performing art schools my whole life. So almost all of my friends are, classically trained musicians, classically trained fine artists, classically trained actors, whatever. And so there is a level of vulnerability that's required to operate at a high level of art. And so I think a lot of my friends are more comfortable being vulnerable than the average person because it's necessary to be vulnerable to do what they do. But you're right, because I'm thinking now about my friends who are not artists, and yeah, that's a larger ask for them.
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to put in there, that safety also has in its bucket, if you will, because I want to say what it doesn't mean. I think I said what it had in it, but it doesn't mean enablement, and it doesn't mean that I agree with you. But it does mean that I respect you. Because
I wanted to let that breathe, because again, when people are operating in ego and you don't agree with them.
Right. I can disagree with you and respect you, even if I don't respect your opinion or your thought. Right. And I was like, and when you find that breeding ground, that's
safety.
That's safety.
That's safety.
Yeah.
And societally and culturally, we don't really create those.
We don't create that. I was like, especially not now. I think previously, more so like maybe our generation and a little bit older, especially if you're people of color, you had to always have like so many different like codes of existing, because you're dealing with the
larger culture
who demonize your existence, while you are learning how to love yourself in this existence.
Yeah, that's hard.
And then trying not to believe the media, while trying to figure out how to elevate out of broken.
Yeah, that's so big.
And I love like the African American community, because we are just, oh my God. When you were at your art show, I just sat there next to you and other people, and I was just like, my God, we're just so beautiful. I just was like, OD. I was like, we're just so freaking beautiful.
Yes.
And just watching like our brothers and sisters walk back and forth and just be.
Yes.
And just be vibrant and beautiful.
In a place where they could be represented and celebrated.
Correct. And I sat there and I was just like, man, so many of us did not have the privilege of not having to create hard shells in order to survive.
Yes.
And then we took out the hard shells on each other.
That is so true and so big.
So part of like it being hard for us to culturally forgive is that we're so inundated.
Yes.
With so much hurting about just existing. And then
not to mention the other ills that are taking place in our communities, the other traumas.
And we've adopted colorism. We've adopted these things that hurt us. I'm like, part of like the forgiveness that some of us are doing in our family is realizing that because I was the lighter one or because I was the darker one, it didn't make me ugly, but my family said that to me. And how do I forgive that?
Right.
How do I forgive ignorance? How do I forgive something that's echoed not just in my house, but echoed
you're so right about that.
And I'm like, so there's so many
because I had another standard.
Right.
Because it's like you always see that meme of like Prince, and it talks about the uppity auntie or the bougie auntie.
Yeah.
And a lot of our family dynamics are like that too, where the one who doesn't want to, drink Hennessy at the family barbecues, that person gets ostracized because now you think you better than everybody.
Now you think you better. Ooh, I had I went to see my family one time, and I stopped drinking Kool-Aid. Okay,
see, people think they better than everybody.
I stopped drinking it, and so they were like, oh, they had like sips. And if anybody was like, it's just boxed Kool-Aid. I don't care what nobody's saying.
2 S's, right?
Right? Yeah. And they had Kool-Aid, and they had Sunny D. I drink none of those things anymore.
Sunny D is like vegetable oil with like food coloring in it. I don't even know what that is. So thick.
it was always dry.
Yeah.
I was like, why is this liquid dry? It's too much. But when I was a kid, I drank what I had.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was like, and I started to care more about the things that I drank.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but I didn't even think anything of it just because I hadn't done it in a while. And the speech came when what happened. I was like, oh, I don't drink that. Do you have like 100% juice or something like that, or do you have? I'll drink water.
Right,
like, I'll drink water and I'm gooch. And they were like, oh, Samora don't drink Kool-Aid. And they started calling cousins into the kitchen. And they're like, Samora don't drink Kool-Aid. And I'm like, what's happening?
Y'all tripping with no Mac.
I was like, what's happening? Now, be clear. Don't come for my family because I come for you, okay? My family loves me and I love them. They just didn't agree with the fact that they felt like I was being bougie about this Kool-Aid. But what it was just an example of I changed out of the normalcy that was acceptable.
To choose something more healthy.
Correct.
Because that can be offensive when you become more healthy.
Correct. And sometimes I try to get people to understand that just because you've elevated, graduated, and learned, it doesn't mean that everybody went to school with you.
Literally.
Right? And I was like, and here's the thing, they're not the lesser for it.
They're not. And I think that what you just gave was a perfect example of how it's not the person who was choosing the more healthy thing that created the problem. It was the people who were choosing not to be healthy who felt offended by that. So that happens very often. It's not that someone becomes more healthy and then they're like, I'm looking down on y'all. No, people just naturally feel convicted when they see you doing something that they know they're supposed to do. And it's easier to attack you than it is to do the work necessary to change.
Yeah. I tell you what, I was like, I had my aunt of mine called me not too long after my dad had passed away, and she was like, hey, I just wanted to call you and apologize. And she was like, and I really hope that you'll forgive me. And we hadn't really spoken probably in over 2 decades. I think we may have had 1-2 conversations in between that time, but other than that, we hadn't spoken. Like, I didn't rock with her, she didn't really rock with me, and I didn't hate her. I just didn't like. I am very much like, once I turn my head, who are you,
Samora? Can we talk about it?
Because
that's literally how I am.
Yeah.
And I think very often what people don't understand is, when you're a person who's very like mission focused, you're purpose driven, that's like a tunnel vision. And so anything that isn't aligned with that, you just don't have an appetite for.
I know.
It's nothing malicious. It's not rude. It's not nasty. I don't have an appetite for something that isn't aligned with my purpose. Correct.
And it's not like when I thought about her, like I seethed or anything like that. I just like, I'm so serious. Out of sight, out of mind. And so she calls me and she's just like, I just want you to forget, and I want to talk to you. And I was like, go for it. And she said, I always knew you would be something great for this world.
Oh, that's beautiful.
She goes, what I couldn't handle was that you had it.
Wow.
And I was like, what do you, I was like, Auntie, I was like, what do you mean? She said, you were always different. And I knew that. And she goes, and I was jealous of it to an extent. She goes, but I also didn't know how to like handle it. She said, you always kind of talked very matter of fact. And she was like, you were kind of clear and like bold and like confident in some ways. And I just was upset about it. And she was like, and it was more of what was going on with me, but you were the target.
Wow.
And she was like, and I shouldn't have done that to you. She said, I was your aunt. I should have been the one who loved you, who nurtured you, who cared for you, and who supported you. And she goes, but even though I didn't treat you well, because we had like a big argument, a couple of actually, and these fights. She goes, I should have been the one who came to the child, because you were a child when we fell out, and dealt with you better. You shouldn't have gotten that treatment from me.
That's major.
And she's like, I hope you can forgive me, because I'm telling you that I really do love you.
Wow.
And I was blown, because it never even crossed my mind, like, that she would ever, one, acknowledge that she even did anything wrong.
Right. Because a lot of times that does not happen in family dynamics.
Yeah. And I'm like, and just so you don't understand the extent of like one of the arguments, and I won't go too deep with it, but one of the arguments was, like her telling me that my parents didn't want me. You know what I mean? That they rathered have a boy, and that I was a mistake, but it was too late, and so they got me, and that's why, some of the treatment that I went through is what I went through, because they didn't want me in the first place. And, I had really bad anger issues back then, so that didn't settle well, like, with me, and I didn't handle it mature. I wasn't mature to handle it. Right. I was like, I think that argument started, I was like 14. Wow. And I already was dealing with my own demons. So to have her say that when this is supposed to be, again, one of the people who love me, it was really hard for me to like deal with. And I was just like, I will cut you off in a minute. I'm a good, the way I can karate chop cut you off, literally, is jinsu knife, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Jiu-jitsu out here. I don't even know if that's accurate. Forgive me.
Well, whatever sharp sword
is that cuts you off, but having her without being prompted,
literally
nothing, because it didn't matter. My father was passing away. I'm calling all of your siblings. I'm telling them what they need to know. My sisters were group chatting, talking, making sure everything is together. And I sent them all, chains that had a picture of my father in it and his birth and stuff. So I'm just like, I'm going to honor your position, even if I don't feel like you're an honorable individual. Right?
That's forgiveness.
Right. And here's the thing. I had not forgiven her. I just didn't know I didn't. Because here's the thing. When I mean I move on.
And we got to talk about triggers. Because
I'm like, when I moved on at that young age, I wasn't talking about forgiveness back then. What you talking about? I just didn't rock with her. I just didn't talk to her. And nothing had triggered me to deal with the fact that I hadn't forgiven her.
That's so good.
And so the conversation had to bring back up what happened in the first place. And what I valued about what she did was she didn't shrink from the depths of the hurt that she caused. And she also applied for apologized for the rippling effect that may have caused. And then she realized that it robbed us of a relationship, because why would I ever? And hearing her, I'm sitting there listening to her, and I'm like, this got to be God. This got to be holy. What is this?
And really quick, I wanted to just drop that parenthetically in. It is God. Like, we think we know our hearts so well. We think we know ourselves so well. Everyone, when they describe themselves, talks about how wonderful and loving and amazing they are. And those things are there. They exist. But there's some nooks and crannies in your heart that you haven't explored. Yeah. Our hearts are like the bottom of the sea. There are some creatures in there, some species in there that we haven't even seen, much less categorized. And I really believe that God engineers certain experiences in our lives to show us what he's already seen.
To uncover. And so she went through, and she made the speech, and she talked about other things. And I was just like, first of all, kudos to you, sis.
The level of emotional intelligence. It's the level of emotional intelligence. I was like,
I don't know what poked whatever you to do that. But I was so grateful.
Yes.
And I had to be honest with her. I said, it really did hurt me bad.
Wow.
Because she was the only aunt that I had. She was the only girl. You were the only aunt that I had, and I was like, and the men in my dad's the brothers, the uncles, they all were all super loving towards me. So to have the only woman there that I could be kind of like girly with not embrace me was kind of wild to me.
Yes.
But I appreciated the fact that she took the time.
That is huge.
To say that and go through that and then give me the freedom to walk through it on the phone with her, what it did to me. She didn't shrink from it. She didn't try to run away from it. And at the end of the call, I was able to say truly that I do forgive you, and so I really do love you, and then I'll treat you as so.
Well, how do you even define forgiveness?
So, because we out here, all right? I want to give you actual. Okay,
we're not freestyling.
Okay, I want to give you actual because that's another.
Do you hear a beat? This isn't about to be a hot 16. It's not off the dome. She got real definitions in these streets.
What's happening? No, I say that because I want to give you the actual definition, because especially in this society, we love to remix a definition to mean what we want it to mean for us, and not say what it actually means. It means to stop feeling angry or resentful toward someone for an offense, flaw, or a mistake. Or a mistake.
Offense, flaw, mistake.
Or a mistake.
That's definitely 3 different things.
Correct. And they show up differently. They function. They have different effects. And not everything is this like long drawn out process. Like there are some things that's quick. You can quick to forgive, and the process is quick.
Oh yeah.
And there are
like let's just say if on my way here you were like, I need you to pick up some juice, and I forgot. I don't think you'd be holding aught in your heart towards me like, who does she think she is without her juice?
Correct.
She drinking my juice.
That's a lot.
But an unhealed heart.
But an unhealed heart will make everything, and again, will make everything
offense.
An offense. Correct. And having that
triggers.
Yeah, I was like triggers her, and I was like, and I needed to release her.
Yeah.
I needed
and that's the grace of forgiveness.
Yeah, because even though forgiveness, the root of it is for you. The simplicity of it is forgiveness is the person who is doing the forgiving. So her asking for forgiveness, right, was also a demonstration of, hey, I'm going to make this right. I don't get to dictate whether or not you forgive me, but I do get to dictate that I forgive myself because I address it. I dealt with it. I took accountability for it. I took accountability for the situation, for the behavior, for the impact about it. And here is my hope.
Man, that's so big. Can I be honest? Like, can I be completely honest?
Yeah.
I suck at forgiveness. I don't like forgiving. I don't like it. I don't like forgiveness. I don't like forgiveness because let's run down some reasons why. Because I think I was probably one of those people who didn't listen to the forgiveness episode. Full transparency.
Heard. Sending it to you.
Yeah, literally.
Got it.
Yeah, you will send it to me too. You will. I don't like it because our cultural understanding of forgiveness means that when we forgive someone, we are inadvertently saying that what they did to us was okay. I don't believe that that's God's view of it.
It is not.
But that is how we are socialized to look at it.
Correct.
And so there are very many people that once you forgive them think, oh, well, it's okay that I did this. And I can continue to behave in this way and treat you in this way.
Correct.
And it's almost like it becomes license. You give someone permission to re-injure you. And it's really hard to have the types of conversations where you're able to really just let someone know, like the conversation you have with your aunt. I mean, most of us have never had a conversation like that.
Yeah.
So
it blew me away. I was like, oh,
girl.
Yeah.
So, it's most of the time, even when you tell someone, hey, what you did bothered me, I'm sorry, but then they do it again. Yeah. So, how do you deal with forgiveness when someone's character hasn't changed? Mm-hmm. Their level of self-awareness is not in a place where they even see themselves. Mm-hmm. They don't have any desire to have that mirror in front of them to show them these things, right? And for me, very often, it is the type of person who is easily triggered because anything, they view anything as an offense. Yeah. So then they respond and they retaliate. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how do you do that? How do you walk out forgiveness with someone who will re-injure you?
Oof. First of all, thank you. Because I promise you,
you're a safe space.
You know what I'm like, I was like, I promise you there is someone right now who is listening and who's just like, she sound like she doing team too much. And I'd be like, I see exactly why her episode didn't do numbers because I don't want to do this. That's why I say separation. I was like, forgiveness is a process. When you are the forgiver, there has to be this, you have to also bring into it an understanding of the part of the process that you can control and the other part of the process that you cannot, that you have no control over, and then there's some mystery in between.
Wow, that's big.
Okay. One of the things is, and I'll give you my dad as an example, right? So my dad sexually abused me as a child, and as a teenager, I decided to forgive him. But not only that, I desired to have some kind of relationship with him. And, my friends and even some family members, who just could not stand my dad, did not understand why I would even have the audacity. Wow. To try and do that. And here's the thing. Though I had made a decision to forgive my father, in the beginning, I had an expectation that because I was forgiving him and that I would talk to him about like what hurt, or what was, what made me sad, that he would then have the also desire to stop doing the thing of hurt. Whew. I hope that he had not only the desire, but the willingness.
Because essentially you're doing the hard part.
Right.
So it's like it's almost like you're coming to the table with the table and the chairs.
Correct.
And you're just saying, hey, sit down.
I need you to sit down. Mm-hmm. I need you to sit down, and I need you to help me, set the table as well, because you have to be a part of this particular thing. And me needing or desiring or wanting his behavior to change does not mean that he had the will, desire, capacity, or the support to do it.
Yeah, that's huge.
Because often what's not thought about is that the person who is the hurter, how they became the person who hurts.
That's so big.
And what they are equipped or willing to do.
That's so real. And that's why healing is so important.
That's why healing is so important. Yeah. And so I remember it was, I had invited my dad to my wedding.
Wow.
I was like, here's the crazy part. I invited my dad to my wedding, and I told him that he can spend the night at my house so he didn't have to worry about a hotel. There was a separate room that he could, that he could be in, or whatever the case may be. I wasn't, worried. So I'm like, okay, he'll come. And I was like, wow, I get to have like this one experience of like normal kind of like what you see everybody, with their dad working out. So much so though, I wanted this so bad that my mother was like, if you invite your father to the wedding, I'm not going to come. I was like, I'm so sorry that you won't be there. I am a person who I'm not dictated to.
Oh yeah, that's facts. That's facts.
So
she don't play.
I'm like, you made a decision. I didn't make it. Mm-hmm. You said if you invite your father, you know I invited him, then I can't come. Then you uninvited yourself. I'm so sorry that you're not going to make it. I'll send you pictures and video. You know, and I was like, I love you dearly. Mm-hmm. And she couldn't believe that I said it, and I was like, you didn't just meet me. You know, and I'm just like, I was like, you cannot hold your relationship or your presence ransom to me. Right. Like, don't do that, because I'm going to call your bluff. Right. Right. Or I'm going to accept your terms of agreement. I got work to do too. Okay? So went through all of that. He had booked booked his, he was taking a bus. He lived in Albany. He wasn't far. And 4 days before my wedding, he called me and he was like, yeah, like me and my girlfriend are coming. And I was like, you have a girlfriend? What are you talking about?
When was the girlfriend invited?
I was like, oh, she can't come.
I missed a part of the story.
I was like, oh, she can't come. I was like, it's a wedding. You can't just like pop up people 4 days before a wedding. And
people
I was like,
do that too, coming. Especially Caribbean people. They be bringing cousins that you have never met. I just don't understand. And I'm like, you can't bring her. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why you thought that you could bring her. And I'm like, and I've never heard of her a day in my life. And I was like, and we've been talking for at least a year, I think, for maybe a year, at that point. So I was like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I was like, where's she staying? It was like, with me. I was like, in my house? You gonna bring a stranger in my house? And then it's giving to Mia.
Yeah,
there's a stranger in my house.
And I'm like, and I was like, and not to like bash, my like my dad. I was like, I just want you to understand the extent of the audacity that sometimes like people had. He hadn't even met her yet. It was somebody that he was chatting with, and that he was going to meet her for the first time, and then come stay at my house. Like the layers of what is this? What is this?
Somebody for the first time,
right?
And bringing them into somebody else's wedding
online, and
into someone else's house.
I was like, the layers of absolutely not was real. And here's what I said.
That's a master class in absolutely.
Here's what I said to him. I said, okay, Dad. Okay, Dad, listen to me. I was like, I need you to hear me. I'm gonna say this to you. And I'm gonna say this to you. I was like, because I just need to like say this to you. I was like, Daddy, you are hurting me. I was like, you are breaking my heart. You are unreasonable in your actions. You are devastating me right now. I am crying out to you right now, saying that I just want my father to walk me down the aisle so that I can have this moment with you, this memory that is good and pure and loving. And I was like, and that is selfless, that is for me, and that is for us, and that is, I was like, and it's not inundated with any kind of like selfish motives of what you want to do, regardless of how it affects me. You know what I mean? And I was like, here's the narrative that has already existed in our relationship, and I was like, you've always chosen the fulfillment of yourself over anything that I need. Yet you are my father. This is painful. This hurts. Can you hear me when I tell you that this is devastating to hear? Yes. And that I am flabbergasted at the fact that you would say this and do this. And I was like, and it's 4 days before my wedding. What's happening? Yeah. His response was, well, you don't care about my feelings. I'm not coming there by myself. What I look like coming into your wedding by myself, not having somebody with me or whatever. I'm not going.
You see why people didn't watch the forgiveness episode? Because they feel like they're gonna unleash the people in their life to treat them like that.
Yeah. And I'm just like, and he went and he said it, and I told him, I said, if you try to bring this woman, you cannot come to my wedding. He was like, well, I guess I'm not coming. I said, hold up. I just need to understand. Wow. I said, are you telling me, your daughter, that you are not going to walk me down the aisle so that because I won't allow you to bring a woman that you have not even met yet, a stranger, into my home, into my wedding, when you just told me about him. I think it was Monday. He was supposed to be there Thursday. My wedding was Thursday, and he was supposed to come. Actually, he was supposed to come the next day. So, and he goes, yes, full chest.
Full stop, no comma?
Yeah, no full stop. And he was like, and I'm not going to keep having this conversation, and hung up on me. First of all, I have like a thing that ticked me. Like, let me, here's the part where Shamori ain't grow yet. Here's the part where Shamori ain't grow yet, right? I was like, I'm a bring in Emicia and like, are you dumb? are you like my Farragut like drip out when the phone hangs up and I forget like all my tools and all my lessons and stuff like that, and I called him back and I cussed him from here to Timbuktu. You know what I mean? From the soul, from the gut,
from the diaphragm,
And my sister called me and she was like, "You can't curse out your father like that." She was like,
she might have gotten cursed out next.
Yeah, no, you know when people like. You know, like there's people who can call you and you won't go there, even though you like, yeah. You know what I mean? But you won't.
I'm just playing. I haven't cursed anyone out in years.
You won't give them that spice. I'm like, you haven't, praise God.
Yeah, I really haven't. It's been quite a few years.
And so, and I told her, and she was like, I ain't even got no words to make no excuses like for him or whatever.
Because wrong is just wrong.
But here's the thing now. Here is what I said to my sister once I calmed my nerves. I said, I cannot give this man access to re-engage and re-injure me when he has shown me time and time again he has no intention, no willingness, and no desire to change. Here's the thing. I do not to this day believe that he hopes and looks and seeks to hurt me. My hurt and my pain is just a result.
Damage.
It's just a result of him being self-fulfilling.
Absolutely.
I have to fulfill myself. I don't have room, nor am I going to make it
for you to do it. Or how that affects you.
And I was like, and so I'm like, you have these extreme things at times, and I'm like, I have to let go of needing your behavior to change in order for me to find peace.
Wow. And you know what? I think what you touched on is, first of all, just masterful. But secondly, it's an example of why forgiveness and reconciliation shouldn't always be conflated. They are two different things that do not always have to coexist together. You can forgive without reconciling.
Yes.
Perfect example, you know, if I run a business, if someone who was working with me was stealing from me, I can forgive that person without putting them back in the role where they stole from me. Mm-hmm. I can forgive the person who molested me as a child without letting them babysit my children.
Yes.
You know, you can forgive the man in the domestic violence relationship who's beating you without going back to get hit on the back of your head again. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think for me, when I think about reconciliation, number one, I do pay attention to whether that person has a desire to change.
Yes.
Or whether that person, and you said it masterfully, it's not even malicious a lot of the times.
Yeah.
It's just, this is who I am. This is how I want to behave. And no one's going to stop me from being this person.
That part. And when you see it, believe it.
Yeah.
A lot of the tug of war and the struggle of it is not believing the evidence, the proof, and the testimony, if you will, of the person who tells you that
I don't respect you.
I can't respect you. Or if here's the thing, or if this is the requirement of being what you consider good to you, I don't desire
to be good to you.
To be good to you.
Right, literally. And this may be controversial, but this is why I've never been like love. I've never been lovey-dovey. Mm-hmm. I care more about respect than I will ever care about love.
Yeah, that's
me.
I think it's more like the masculine side or what's considered like the masculine side of
absolutely.
things. Because most men will tell you that they have a higher regard for respect and honor than they do.
Absolutely.
From, like what
even in the Bible
love.
when it talks about like wives and husbands.
Yeah, it's like love your husbands and then your husband respect your so respect your husband. Sorry, and then like love your wives. The understanding of that and a lot of this conversation that we had in this episode, it was just like there's so many nuances or things, not to complicate it, but to let you know that sometimes what you have made like simple in the way that justifies you staying in a place of unforgiveness, maybe you should let go.
Yeah. And I think part of what frees me is knowing that I don't have to reconcile. Mm-hmm. Like I literally don't. I just have to make sure that I am adequately forgiving a person, but reconciliation isn't always necessary because you can settle a debt, like let's just say at a bank. Like they charge out your account because you keep overdrafting your account.
Yeah.
You can go and pay them and settle out the debt. That doesn't mean they have to reopen your account.
Correct.
You've shown them in your history that maybe you're not a reliable person to have an account there.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost them something.
Yeah.
So again, it kind of goes back to what we were saying about appetite. If you're somebody who has an appetite for a certain relationship, maybe you'll work to reconcile despite the risk factors involved. But honestly, when I see a pattern of behavior, you're telling me who you are. I don't have an appetite for unhealthy people.
Yeah. But here's what I want to give you, and then I want to share some information of the benefits of forgiving. There is such a fight to there is such a acceptance of throwing away people in relationships, and it's not enough of actually doing this process of forgiveness, because what it does is it opens opportunity that were never open before, to allow you to even not necessarily have an intimate or close relationship, but to have the love of God for someone. To have an honor for the humanity of somebody.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I can still treat, even if I don't think you are honorable in your actions, I can demonstrate this action or treatment towards you that may not be what you deserve, but because I have decided that a part of the walk that I'm going to walk, it's going to be of love, of kindness, and not by the definition that this world has of it, because that's why you had that societal thing. Societal said that if I love you or if I forgave you, that I would let you or I would treat you as this. No, if I forgave you, it means that I no longer am allowing the offense, the flaw, or the mistake to have this imaginary conversation with me that's breeding resentment and pain and all of these things. I am letting go of what you did, because I did recognize it, I did acknowledge it, I did deal with it, and I'm not going to hold it and keep drinking the poison side of it.
Right.
What I am going to keep is the lessons.
Absolutely.
All right. I was like, because forgiveness is not exempt from wisdom.
Of course. Right? And that's why I say reconciliation isn't always necessary.
Right.
Now, if God is calling you to reconcile, he will grace you for that reconciliation.
Yeah. For sure.
But if he's not calling you to reconcile, you ain't got the grace to deal with reconciling with someone who's going to re-injure you. Correct.
And so I want you guys to like hold this, like, this is how powerful forgiveness is, right? I'm like, it not only is it biblical, and that is enough for me, right, as a believer, but here's what the American Psychology Association has even done research on about forgiveness. Forgiveness is linked to mental health outcomes such as reduced anxiety.
Wow.
reduced depression.
Yes.
Reduce major psychiatric disorders, as well as fewer physical health problems, because the stress that unforgiveness can cause will manifest into a physical disorder.
Yes, it will. Anxiety with your stomach. It has been linked to gastrointestinal issues.
Right? And then those symptoms, and then it also lowers mortality rates. There are people who just could not forgive the issue that happened, to them, and it literally ate them inside so much that they were like, I don't know, I cannot see an existence outside of this pain, so I would rather take my life or take the other person's life who hurt me, because I can't deal
it's
with
bondage.
this. It's bondage.
It's bondage.
And I'm like, there is a freedom that is waiting for you mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and even physically, relationally. There's so many layers of freedom that is tied to this thing called forgiveness. And if you would have courage and to be brave enough
to at least do the first level.
To do the first level of things. There's levels to it. And I almost forgot, there was I had a Shattered Hole brunch last year, and it was a young lady who was talking about, she was like, how do you know that you truly forgave? She said, because I felt like I did all of this work, and I've, walked through all these things, and I felt like I forgave this, person. And then this situation came up. There was a trigger.
And they re-injured?
And she was like, and I felt like, she said, and I realized I wasn't as far as I was. And I said, that's not true. I said, we are really quick to throw away the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, instead of recognizing that you forgave at each level. And I always say, I was like, God is such a good God that he doesn't give you everything at all at one time to deal with.
It will overwhelm you.
Right. He will overwhelm you. He will allow you to deal with this section. Right. I'm going to deal with the fact that, can I even have a conversation with this person? I had the conversation.
No, have the conversation with yourself first.
Yeah.
Because some people aren't even aware of how the thing that happened to them is still affecting them.
Yeah. So I'm like, so part of that process was, I got to the place where I could talk to myself.
Yes.
And I was able to really articulate my words without without demonizing the person. I was able to actually ask them questions to even see if they understood exactly what happened. I was able to talk to them about it. It didn't turn out well, but it actually opened up a conversation with my entire family or with my friends. Or what it taught me was, I realized at this stage that I realized what I don't accept and what I do accept, and a lot more about me, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, here's my boundary.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like, here's my rules of engagement, because they're not the same. And then you went from this, whatever. And then there was another opportunity where a trigger happened.
Yes.
Right? And I was like, and trigger has like these negative connotations. So I was like, but sometimes it's literally just to make you aware.
It's just like an information system. It's an alarm.
Yeah. And I love that you said that our heart has so many chambers to it, like the depths of the ocean. And sometimes God will give us an experience for us to uncover that part of it. So he's just like, hey, you've dealt with this. Now I want to deal with this part of it.
Because he wants us to forgive, y'all. I was telling sis earlier, like, a few years ago, like around the time the pandemic started, I was just minding my business, just being black and ashy in America. And out of nowhere, I got this prompt about forgiveness. I'm like, yo, what is this prompt about? Then there came another prompt, and then another prompt. And then I had 10 forgiveness prompts. 10. And when I say forgiveness prompts, y'all, I mean like serious. One of them was, what lie has the offense taught you about yourself, about God, or about your life?
That
girl
right there sent me when she told me.
Because you can say, I forgave my father for saying you ain't gonna be nothing just like your daddy or your mama, whatever. But it's another thing to deal with the fact that now you're carrying an identity. sometimes offense will change your identity. We see, you know, Naomi saying, don't call me Naomi.
Yeah.
Call me Mara. I'm bitter now.
Yeah.
So an offense can change, unforgiveness can change your identity. So, you know, how do you now walk through? That's another stage.
Yeah.
That's after the initial stage of forgiveness. So long story short, y'all, he gave me these 10 prompts. I'm like, still trying to find reasons to not obey. Because I mean, like, who wants to forgive, like, in real life?
Of course.
But we want to be forgiven, though.
Yeah, because we're gonna watch this episode.
Yeah, we want to be forgiven,
correct.
Right? And in fact, he says that if we don't forgive, he won't forgive us.
He won't forgive us.
We don't want to have that conversation in the church. But yeah, so he actually
stuff like God know my heart. Yeah, he know it's wicked.
But we don't know nobody else's heart.
Correct.
So, you know, I'm like, well, God, I can't do these prompts because I don't even have a journal. He reminded me of a journal that I had purchased from Family Dollar years prior that I had never used, and showed me exactly where the journal was, although my house was a wreck at that time, right? So I went and I found the journal, and it literally said on the front, I showed this, forget the past, but remember the lessons.
Yeah.
And that's what forgiveness is.
Because that's the fruit of your nourishment. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Listen, I know that there was a lot in this episode. Hence, heart to heart. We're going to dive into the heart of the different things that we desire for you to explore together.
Yes.
Because
and we're doing it with you.
We're doing it with you because no one has arrived, right? I was like, but you get to benefit from what we have learned, and we would love to hear like your thoughts on it. Where are you? What have you done? What's an example of where you've seen the benefits of forgiveness, or what's some areas where you're like, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? Like we're here to hear you, because listen, at the end of the day, I want you to remember this. I want you to remember that we see you. We do. We are listening.
We are you, y'all. There's some people I still haven't forgiven yet, and I want to bust their head to the white meat.
Wait a minute. We're ending with love.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I was from like, Brooklyn. Because we see you.
In real life. Don't let the necessary occur.
I'm like, we are listening, and we love you, and God bless you.